I was really leaning in because the rhythm of that thing. It wasn't like a comedy special. I really felt like, and you had that documentary feel in the beginning. At the end, you gave us a peek into, the sandy beaches of, going back home, and I was like, this was just such a package. Talk about that process of you making it into a mini documentary in the midst of a comedy special, Ida.
You know what? I was afraid of doing it because comedians are so critical, and those comedians who are purists are always like, they're interweaving stuff, and I've been that way. There's a lack of representation when it comes to people of color, Black people on television. And even though people are, because Joyelle and I get to hear it all the time from white male comedians, like, you got to be a person of color to get something now. And then you turn on the television or you look at the trades and it's all white people. You look at the showrunners and Issa Rae got a show, but it's 100 white people for every Issa Rae. And when it comes to people of darker hues that are also from the diaspora, you don't get, you see the complaining about it. And I was like, I'm gonna take these cameras. I'm gonna take this Black woman, Nadia Hogren, who directed Michelle Obama's Becoming. We went to the Puerto Rican and the Dominican Republic, and we were like, let's put the camera on the people that you never get to see. And let's show how Black Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic can be. And we did palos, we did bomba plena, which is the African, dances, ritualistic dances that honor the motherland. And I wanted to show that. So I said, I'm a sacrifice a piece of this stand-up, and I'm gonna use this part because it's not that hard to include people. You just gotta want to do it. And I was like, I want to do it, and I'm going to.
That was the first, when the cameras come in, you see, I think you start in Puerto Rico, and I said Ida did that on purpose. Dark skin, brown skin, coarse hair. I was like, beautiful, hair. I was like, okay, because if you turn on Telemundo or Univision, you only see white people who speak Spanish, and that is the diaspora definitely is not that. The majority of people who are in these countries look like you. Look like That's Joyelle and Lamont, more like Lamont than anybody. 866-801.
They look like you too, Karen.
I'm sorry. I'm a dark-skinned person. I don't know how this complexion betrayed me, but I have dark-skin energy, and you know what that means. But yes, I will fight you. But apparently, I didn't know. I thought you were a fighter, Aida Rodriguez. But I'm learning more about you through your comedy. That you actually weren't a fighter. You were, I knew that you were in your books, but and I didn't know that you couldn't do the dozens that well. Like, I'm learning all of these things about you. And it was fascinating,
to be honest, because we got to be honest, right? When I was a kid, I've always been very empathetic, empathic, and I was shamed out of that, but I was surrounded by people who fought all the time, from my mother to my uncles, my grandmother shooting up the block. Like, it was so that I went the other way. I just cowered. I just got into myself. I was really quiet and shy. I didn't learn how to fight until later. And, and then I never stopped.
Now, did you say your grandmother shooting up the block? Is that what you said?
Yeah, some drug dealers in our neighborhood threatened her, and they went on her property and they threatened her, and they told her that she better do something. All she heard, I don't know what they said after that, because all I know is that once she heard the word "better," she went and put some bullets in the chamber, and she went downstairs and she started shooting, and they called the cops on her.
No, that's right.
They did.
For both of you, the most challenging point of doing that, you've done special, you've done, I saw They Ready, Ida, Joyelle, I know this was your first comedy special, Lovejoy. They Ready, you were part of an ensemble or different, multiple comedians, including Flame Monroe and Shantae Wayans. Thank you, and others. What was the most challenging point for either one of you? Joyelle first. Most challenging about doing this comedy special?
I think it was interesting because for me, I'm Peacock's first special, Jimmy Fallon's first special, my first special, the director, Marcus Russell Price's first special. So when everyone's doing their first thing, we're not necessarily sure what's going on. And there are a lot of things that you kind of take for granted where you thought be like, oh, you should know that. But down the line, people don't necessarily know what's going on. So sometimes things would get lost in translation. And I just had to center myself to be like, all right, the universe is going to take care of the details. Don't get frustrated and just know that that's how this industry is. Like everybody's just kind of experimenting and finding their way. So it actually made me feel better because, when we think we don't know what we're doing, that's fine. Still go for it. Even if you don't think you know what you're doing, because people are still going to put something together. And when I was asking people for advice, I called Ida on the phone and she gave me her advice about doing a special. And one of the biggest takeaways was, girl, wear comfortable shoes. And I chose the more comfortable shoes because that's something you wouldn't think about going into a special. You want to look cute in some heels. And
Ida had on some heels. So was that advice you gave after the fact? Because it looked like you had on some heels. They were gold with so your feet were, because I was like, you were looking for the stool a couple of times. You was like, can I sit down? But no, I can't sit down.
Well, I twisted my ankle in rehearsal. And so I sprained my ankle, which I'm still rehabbing. So that's why I was looking for the stool, because I hurt myself and I had to endure for the sake of continuity, because I went on stage the first show, I had to keep the shoes on. So that's why because you don't think about those kinds of things. So that's why I was like, to protect your energy, be careful who's around you right before. Take a moment. I had my whole family around me the whole time. Like, it was important, and I wanted Joyelle to win. And I was like, look, let me tell you about this little stuff nobody is going to tell you. But
yeah. And another friend of ours, a comedian named Ramon Rivas, he had attended her tapings, and he told me, he was like, make sure you have a little bit more of a block in between the time so you could settle yourself and not be rushing around, because you want to be able to have that moment's peace before you record the second show.
Now I know a lot of people on the outside don't realize that, when you're taping a special, you're doing like multiple sets or multiple shows. For both of y'all, was there a bit that might have hit one show that hit differently at the next show? And how do you navigate that? Like, do you get in your head when that happens?
I mean, I just, first of all, I just want to answer Karen's question, because I think that I have to say the hardest thing about doing my special was trying to be funny during a time of the elections, coronavirus, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, so on and so on. To have to internalize all that stuff and then go on stage where you're not going to be able to talk to the audience after the show because of a pandemic. People got on masks. They sit in, between two seats in between. You're doing shows on Zoom. That's the worst comedy show. It was a lot of trauma. We have collective trauma from this. As people of color, Black people in this country, we have the trauma of watching the execution of our people, having these uprisings, feeling guilty. I'm like, I don't need to be at no comedy show. I should be out there fighting with my people. Like, it was so much stuff. And then you get on stage and you like, let me be funny. And it was, I would get on stage when Nick passed away.
Yes.
Our fellow comedian who used to open for me had just opened for me the week before. I had to get on stage after just finding out about his death. I collapsed before I went on stage. I did my set. I got off stage. I collapsed again, went on stage, did my second set, collapsed again, and then went back to my hotel room and cried for the rest of the night. And, it's just, that's just part of the job. And it was really, really hard to do these pandemic specials. And still, we showed up because we want to make other people happy, even when all of this stuff is going on, because that's what makes us feel full.
Talking about
Absolutely.
Nick Carson, who died suddenly in August. I think he was 41. 866-801-8255. Lamont, so Joyelle, which of your jokes landed in one set and didn't land in the other?
The first set is like my mother was there, people who know me from childhood, and they told me they were going to be in the dark in the back. They were not in the dark in the back. I saw them. The room was too brightly lit. So I wasn't as comfortable the first set. And, part of the advice is also you're going to get the words out the first set. So I just feel like the second set, I was way more comfortable in general. So all the jokes hit better on the second set. The energy was better. I got a standing ovation. And the first set was just me, getting the words out. So if we need to edit a stutter, we can go back to it. But I preferred the second set energy much better.
Is that what we are seeing? Did they take all of the second set in the Peacock special?
I actually can't really tell because of continuity what she was talking about. One of the things was I had to make sure to keep holding my mic in the same hand. And that's what my director told me that he had heard from Roy Wood Jr. told him that. He was like, make sure that I was his first special. He's like, make sure she holds that mic for continuity. And I had to keep thinking about that. So we're thinking about all this other stuff while we're doing our jokes. And I kept almost switching hands and be like, I got to hold this mic for continuity. So I can't tell until the end where they.
Well, that means it's perfect. If you can't tell.
I can tell.
That's some good editing.
Yeah.
That's really good editing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ida.
So I was just going to say, for me, I had the same experience with the first set. Was getting the words out. The second set was a lot more. I was a lot more in my body. I was very involved in the editing process of my special, and I decided to keep the jokes in the first set where some things were uncomfortable and they didn't get the big laughs, which some people have been commenting on Twitter, and they got bigger laughs in the second show. But I just felt like, to inform my message about how phony woke people are and how, like, I had to keep that in there. That's why I made commentary about it, because I was like, this is what I'm talking about. And that's why comedians don't like y'all, why we tired of y'all, because y'all being phony, because you'll go home and say all kinds of stuff and be inappropriate. All these cancel people, the people who want to cancel people, who be coming for people, I guarantee you, if you look into their lives, they are cancellation worthy themselves, because all of us are imperfect. So I kept some of those uncomfortable moments. And I remember the editor was like, you sure you killed in the second set? I was like, nah, leave it in there, because that's when I had the opportunities to say, this girl is in a wheelchair who was a bully because karma got her, and y'all don't want to laugh at her because y'all phony. And that's why I don't like woke people. So I just chose to keep some of those awkward moments in there, because I just feel like it feeds my message and what I'm trying to say about how all this performative wokeness that never, ever, ever results in actionable items that actually help our communities. And that's what I wanted to say. Like, that was very important to me in that moment.